felt like it was like always like my like
Yeah.
monthly therapy session, but it was like, it's not really having the like, it's not achieving the results that I want of like growing like kind of a top of funnel audience that we can like nurture and like build a community around. And I think a big part of it, we came down to and I like realized is like, I have a lot of excellent content on here that's like too gated. It's like, just like, it's not like I need to share like more like out, like more publicly and like give a little bit more like to across channels and things like that, and then kind of bring people into something else. So that's where then we started to pivot, and then this year invested in creating more video content for Aimtel.
And I'm all about experimentation in marketing. I like to call it my marketing lab. But a lot of times we'll start something and we have fun doing it. So we continue doing it. Let's say TikTok. That algorithm seems to be a mind reader for me. And I'll go on TikTok and I'm like finding all of these new bands that I love. I'm finding new books I love. So I'm thinking this works so well for me personally, I might as well try and see if it'll work for me business-wise. So I start creating videos on TikTok and I'm having fun with it. It's a little more freewheeling than Instagram and I keep doing it. But I don't actually check the analytics to see if it's moving the needle for my business. So I'm spending all of this time doing this thing because I'm enjoying doing it. But at the end of the day, if it's not moving the needle, getting people to subscribe to my email list, getting people to buy from me, getting people to find me on other platforms, find my podcast, then it doesn't really freaking matter. So it's all great that you get a lot of views on TikTok, but if it's not moving the needle, then who cares? It doesn't really matter. And that's something you should cut. And that's what I'm talking about today with Janet Mesh. I'm sharing an interview I had with her. She is the CEO of Aimtel, and we're talking about agile marketing. So while we are all for experimenting and trying new things in marketing, we are also all for making sure to look into that data, check your benchmarks, decide on benchmarks before you experiment, and regularly look at the reporting to see if it is moving the needle on your goals. Because if it isn't, it is not worth continuing. So today we're going to be talking about how to apply agile marketing to your own business so you can get more done with less time. I'm Sarah Noel Black, and this is Tiny Marketing.
I'm Janet. I'm the CEO co-founder of Aimtel. We're a integrated marketing consulting agency, and we specialize in B2B technology companies and providing solutions and services to them. So my background is in marketing strategy, content, and digital marketing. I got a degree in communications and marketing, and luckily was able to make like a full career out of it. So
beyond a career, you built an empire.
Oh, wow. Thank you. That sounds scary. No, I like that. Thank you. Yeah. So for Aimtel, we are 5 years into the business, which is just a really incredible like inflection point of just like a lot of reflection. And then, kind of in like maintenance, dreaming, building mode right now to what the next 5 years are going to look like in terms of like just scale and sustainability. So it's been fun for sure. Definitely. I mean, we might have to have like a separate conversation or podcast of like truly the wins and woes of agency life. But
oh my gosh, that would be an interesting one for sure. So for background for people who are listening, I stalked Janet so hard because I was fangirling over her marketing. She was
now I fangirl yours.
Thank you. Oh, I'm blushing now. She was doing just the most amazing work. So I just talked at her for ages until she noticed me.
It worked. That was honestly like tip number one, do what Sarah did.
Just be persistent.
For sure.
You will be my friend.
I think that's like a whole point of like just the importance of like marketing yourself and like being visible, and like you never really know when it's going to like resonate with someone or like they're going to be like, oh, like that's exactly what I was thinking or what I need, or like, let's chat. And then like the rest just becomes history.
Yeah. Honestly, I think I've made all of my online business friends similarly to that, where I was like, oh, they're doing good stuff. I want to chat with this person.
Yes, for sure. Yeah,
Then
I feel like I find people now through you because like the like especially on LinkedIn, it like kind of feeds you people like in your network you engage
yeah.
with, and then like commenting. So then I'm like, so you're paying it forward of building everyone's network.
Yeah, I don't even feel like a social person, but when it comes to that, because
Mhm.
I rabbit hole real hard when it comes to marketing and like, oh, I like what they're doing. So I end up being really social that way
Love it.
in my weird rabbit hole way.
Oh yeah, rabbit holes are the best though, honestly.
Yeah. Today we're talking about agile marketing, which
Yeah.
I'm pumped about. Let's talk about what really got you there. Like, honestly, it's so important to be able to look at what you're doing and say, this isn't freaking working. Let's
Hmm.
pivot. But what is your methodology with that? How do you decide the threshold on it's time to make a change, and what do you do?
Good question. So I think at like its core just like is like the question of like what's working and what's not. And that sounds so simple, but I find that sometimes it just really is. To get to that level, you have to be very like honest and kind of remove your ego from something that you created or like a goal you had in mind, or even, I mean, I think we're all kind of consulting a lot on this. And so, kind of thinking in terms of like that first, the way you explained it is like how we've thought about it. But kind of over the years, we're kind of starting with just like like with marketing and just at like the very high level, as we know, like it's constantly changing. Like 2 weeks ago, Threads came out.
Yeah,
And
I
then,
know.
like
It's tossed into everyone's strategy.
yeah, right, exactly. Like a day later, it's like, what's your threads? Like, what's the thread strategy? Like on the client side, I'm like, I don't know. I just found out about this,
It just
but I think that
existed.
just yeah, I think that's the nature in something that of course, like I think as marketers we want to plan and like you need to plan and forecast and like, but kind of planning for the change is really how we think about it, and like that kind of more. But I think it's like really like I think the most important is like the mindset. Of course, then it comes down to like the operations and like how to do that. But in terms of kind of at the philosophical level, marketing changes constantly. Like it's always evolving. Like, and then it's not even just like in the industry and just like then you layer in like your audiences and the customers and like what their goals are and interests. So I think just making sure it's like adaptable in those ways. So we have like our kind of our processes of how we like approach the way we do marketing like follows like step 1 research, step 2 strategy, 3 execution, 4 analyze, and then 5 optimize, and then like back to research, and then do we need to change the strategy and the plan and then execute. I find that like a lot of people and companies want to go right to step 3 into execution, and
Yeah,
then
often, if they can skip strategy, they will.
correct, and then also like want to kind of skip over potentially like the reporting and like kind of getting uncomfortable of like really looking at like, did this perform or not, or like is this still aligned with the goals that we set like a month ago, or things like that. I find what I also really like about agile marketing is that it gives like a common language and like methodology, because everyone kind of does marketing differently, and that's what's really exciting. But I think what I enjoy about it is it gives a bit of that standardization that I find is sometimes missing. So like you can literally go to agilemarketingmanifesto.org and they have like 4 values, and they also have like layer in with like the principles. I can like read I like pulled it up, the values real quick. They're like 1, focusing on customer value and business outcomes over activity and outputs. 2, delivering value early and often over waiting for perfection. Y'all check out that one. 3, learning through experiments and data over opinions and conventions. And 4, there's 5 actually. 4, cross-functional collaboration over silos and hierarchies. And then 5, responding to change over following a static plan. So it's like, in a way, they're not like so specific to marketing, but you follow that. We found it's like very successful in just being like giving that common language. We're an agency, so like having that common language with our clients And so they kind of understand like our approach and process, and they're not like, well, that's just, it kind of, I think the opinion thing is where I always like to kind of hone in on. It's like everyone has an opinion, but it's like, how are we like using the strategy and the data and your audience, really like the customer, like what's the customer value, and using that to like guide forward instead of being so dependent on, they call it like the highest paid person in the room is like part of it, which is like lots of spiciness that I just live for, to be honest.
Now, and you work with big enterprise tech companies, so Agile is very much a part of their vernacular. There's the burn down charts. You got to be Agile. So it makes a lot of sense with your
and you're like you start like working in sprints and like kind of like iterating quickly and kind of having to pivot and just being like open to that. Or if they're kind of not, like maybe other members of the organization are doing that. So it's like could even be something that they like have to adopt, but they don't really like know how to. Or I would say like we're not like super deep. I feel like a lot of it is just like the overall like how we kind of look at it is like a lot of like approach and mindset and like the collaboration parts of it too, because I think sometimes if you're just like too technical in it, it can like constrain things unnecessarily. So it's just a matter of like just, I don't know how to explain it exactly. I'm not explaining it very like eloquently. But
let's look at it from the perspective of a time you had to do this. And maybe it would be easier if you used an example from your own agency if you don't want to bring up like client work.
Yeah.
But like, when was a time that you were doing some sort of marketing activity for your agency where you were like, okay, I need to pivot, and it turned out to be a success because you're cool with testing and failing and doing something different?
Yeah. I would say the first one that comes to mind actually is I would write a monthly email newsletter and like put a lot of like energy, time, and effort into it.
I subscribed.
Thank you. I know you did. I appreciate you. Like, I think that's the thing is like, I really enjoyed writing it, but it was just like a lot of like effort for not the results that we were like expecting, to be honest. So when I was like looking ahead to 2024, I was like, I just like, and that's the thing. It's like kind of like this thing that I was like, I just really, it's like my like diary. I felt like it was like always like my like monthly therapy session, but it was like, it's not really having the like, it's not achieving the results that I want of like growing like kind of a top of funnel audience that we can like nurture and like build a community around. And I think a big part of it, we came down to and I like realized is like, I have a lot of excellent content on here that's like too gated. It's like, just like, it's not like I need to share like more like out, like more publicly and like give a little bit more like to across channels and things like that, and then kind of bring people into something else. So that's where then we started to pivot. And then this year invested in creating more video content for Intel. So we have a series of short form videos. It's called Marketing in a Minute. So I actually came up with this idea like 2 years ago.
I like it. People love short.
Exactly. And it's like that micro content, micro learning, and a lot of like the content and I know you talk about this a lot, and I feel like this is where we are like totally aligned, is like a lot of the newsletters that I wrote have like a lot of excellent lessons and like learnings. And so instead of just like trying and like pushing forward and being like, it's going to work one day, I was like, no, we're going to like take this and put it into a completely different like strategy and approach here.
Yeah.
And then so I took that content and turned it into the videos, like the short form videos that are like under a minute. And so we're running those on, and I was like, I want to put them out on like YouTube Shorts first. It's like kind of made for that, but then across TikTok and Instagram Reels and see like where it performs the best. YouTube Shorts is just fun fact, obviously. Like then that's the thing is like we're analyzing it, seeing what's performing and like kind of adapting like scripts and like formatting. But then now like kind of what I'm like envisioning as like a next step is like, okay, taking that content and like kind of bringing it back into email of like, if you're really interested in this, then that's kind of like obviously the hook. and then piquing the interest and then bringing like people who are really interested in learning more into some sort of like email program is kind of what I'm envisioning is like the next step. So it's like start an email, went kind of back through, and then kind of coming back to it.
It would loop back to it.
Yeah, but I don't think that we would have like gotten there or like really came to any of these conclusions. Like it sounds really like simple and like, oh, it was like duh, but it wasn't. It was like every month reporting, analyzing, like seeing, like trying to test different promotional tactics for the newsletter, like different copy. We even ran ads. Like I feel like I tried a lot of different things, and it was just like use the data to inform the decision forward, and that's what we did.
Yeah. And then like once you're done testing with the shorts, make that newsletter sign up the CTA at the end of it.
Exactly.
So they can get like the full information. Because I remember your newsletters were really detailed. It was like you could execute from the information that you gave, but you wouldn't be able to fully execute with a 1-minute video. So that would be a great way to pull people in.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, and that's why I kind of like thinking about it too. It's just like, it's, you know, I think that's also what's great about Agile is like, it's really focused on always just on like, I think that's where I see our own, like ourselves or like you can lose sight of like your customer and your audience of what they truly want and need. And like, that's why you do the reporting and optimization, because like, they're going to tell you.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to either resonate or not. There's going to be engagement or not. There's going to be conversion or not. And like, that is like your direct line to understanding like who your audience is and what they want and like what they like will continue to like engage with. So,
yeah. What is hard though, is that at least with my own business, I'm often working with the founders, the presidents, the business unit leaders, and they are lurkers. So they are not going to engage, but they're reading it. I know this because I can see who views my stuff. So it's a little bit harder to test that data when they don't engage with it, but they're reading it and then they reach out. And I had no idea you existed because you never said anything to me.
Right. That's actually super interesting. I think that the same is like for us at Intel, the one like, those who like we're probably going to work with as clients, like almost two different audiences that you're making for like those, like they actually really enjoy it, but they're not going to engage as you were just describing, but they will be the one that will pretty much skip all the steps that you set up to go right to wanting to work with you.
Every single time, the majority of my clients find me on LinkedIn and my comment section is a ghost town, but they're reading it.
Right. That's awesome though. I like that a lot. Amazing. Congrats, honestly.
Note. So I guess people who are listening that lurkers, money is made in lurkers. It's okay.
Right. I think the other like, so I feel like I do things. I don't know. I always am like we do it the Intel way, which is like someone come at me in the comments. I don't care. But when I think of like agile marketing too, like I kind of have this like way that I'm like operated. It's like take what you like and leave the rest a bit. Like you don't have to do everything like by the book, in my opinion. Like that's kind of how you make something your own and like your own experience for your employees and your customers and yourself. But one other thing that like from the beginning I've always done was with the way we structured like our team, we did like with pod models, and that's from Agile as well. So like the client's at the center, and then like we obviously have like a traditional like account management team. Like we have a strategist and a project manager. So like the client has to just go to like one person because they don't want to talk to everyone. Like they obviously know to go to like the point person there, but everyone like the client and the team all has like access to each other, like, and like they're not kind of like behind closed doors. And I think that's how we like differentiate ourselves too, where like the client really feels like they can talk to like the experts on the team, like be consulted, and like we're having that like customer-centric approach to like how we all work together and especially on the relationship side.
Yeah, that is nice.
A lot of times. Because usually like it's like traditional agencies, it's like this like game of telephone.
Yeah. I was actually just on a call with someone who was complaining about that same exact thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That there's just so much turnover in agencies that they're constantly working with someone else, and There's no
Oh,
connection.
yeah,
The
right.
turnover.
It's like if you're like trying to find like a therapist and like you never fit, and like, it's like I don't know how many times I have to tell you about like my like past traumas. Like
Yeah,
I'm
I
done
don't
telling
want
you
to
a story.
cry in an intro call anymore.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and I think that's obviously like, I mean, that just layers into like a lot of other things, but having that like, and that's I think what we try to do differently at Aimtel is like kind of giving that like building that relationship, and they're building that relationship, and obviously sometimes things have to change. However, I think that also kind of comes back to like we take a look at like who on the team has that skill set, but also like personality or like communication styles that could like match a client too. Like
Oh,
instead of just
do
being
you?
like, yeah, we talk about that sometimes internally. We're like, do you think like you vibe with like this is kind of,
Hmm.
yeah, you kind of try to like, I mean, just it's not like a perfect solution or like an equation, but I think it's like it's humans working with humans. So
Yeah.
we can't like overlook that either. Like we're not robots, and there needs to be this like good flow, especially like a lot of marketing is consulting. Like you're really like advising and getting to know these people and their businesses and their own careers, and like, how do we always like question, and we're like kind of thinking like how do we help their business grow, but also like help them even I get really excited when like a client gets like a promotion. I'm like, hell yeah, like exactly, you deserve that. Like, and like we were like kind of along for the journey. Like it's really exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're working with bigger companies where they have the opportunity for
Mhm.
that. So you get to,
But they also have to like prove a lot. Like there's a
yeah.
lot that goes into it, like it's not just based on tenure or something. It's like they have like pretty big goals for sure.
So going back to your marketing strategy, how do you prioritize what marketing matters first?
To take it from the beginning, like when we do like integrated marketing, I think that there can be like a misconception like, oh, we got to do all the things everywhere. And like that's actually really not the case. I mean, I
No,
think
that's
like
trouble. That's trouble.
yeah, it's like
Yes.
it's like kind of also like the how when you're like you're not like your customer isn't everyone, right? Like,
Yeah, I'm always talking about it's okay to repel people because you will
oh, that's
hate
exactly what
working
you
with
want to
people
do.
that would
Yeah,
like you.
for sure. So it's like, I mean, I think it's obviously dependent, but like as like kind of a baseline for any company, it's like it comes down to your audience. Like it comes down to your customer. It's like where are they on, especially obviously we're do like all digital marketing. So it's like where do they like live, work, socialize online? Like how are they consuming information? Where are they doing that? So kind of approaching the strategy based on like their worldview is like how
Mhm.
we do it, and taking that empathetic approach of just like kind of what are the jobs that they need to do, what's outside of work, because we're in like business to business, so it's a lot about like their work life, but it's like I mean they could have a kid behind them like trying to like show them like their homework. I don't know, like I'm not
Yeah,
a mom yet, but like I know like that they're
I
like
am, and it
the worlds
happens.
are mixed. Yeah, like so I think starting there is really important. And then from that, like any kind of approach we do, we kind of think of like strategy and marketing in terms of like campaigns or programs. So like for example, one client like they wanted to like expand their like top of funnel just like footprint, and like in terms of like SEO and just reaching like a larger, they're really technical. It's like a cybersecurity company, but they wanted to they in the SEO audit we did for them, we noticed that they actually have like it's pretty skewed. They had a
Mhm.
lot of like kind of like entry level keywords as well as like really highly technical. So they wanted to kind of nurture that entry level, not even entry level, it was probably like mid level. I mean, for me, I was like, whoa, but it wasn't really too, it was like things that it was like very like they're learning about this industry. Like a lot of people are trying to get into this industry. They could be, and they have these like training programs and certifications. So it was like kind of like laddering up to like some other organizational goals that they were building out. So like from that was like the like based on the research to like then from the strategy into the execution was like, okay, the what we recommended in order to achieve like that like SEO growth, like create a video series, like an explainer video series,
Mhm.
and then turn that into blog content, and then like email, like newsletter, and then social media content. So I think when I'm thinking of like strategy, like an integrated approach, it doesn't have to be like doing a bunch of different things, a bunch of different channels and
Hell
tactics.
no.
It's like one, like focus on one to a couple things and do it across all of that, especially because like you want it to like people aren't only going to go to like certain channels, like they're going to go, they all have different entry points. It's like that whole
Yeah.
flywheel model,
You have to think about distribution or like different channels like distribution. You have that core content, but then repurposing it on those other things is a distribution tactic.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And I think that like that's where sometimes with like the strategy part of it is like it's separate than the plan too, though. It's like really that's why I said like we start with like the audience, like the who, and then like the why. Like why is this important? And then you go into like the how and the what. But if you really don't know like why is this important to this person and like how is my like see I'm going to the how. Like you always want to go to the how and the what, but it's like really get uncomfortable with like the why and the who first is what I like try to like push for and like how we kind of like think of it. There's a really good video by Harvard Business Review, and it's like I think it's called "A Strategy is Not a Plan" or like "A Plan is Not a Strategy." And that one I like feel like I watch that like monthly because like even at the level where I am, like I still you can get stuck in like it's like that execution part. It's like that's step 3. Execution is step 3. And we all want to go there because it's comfortable because we can just start to see what we like want to create. But the value is actually like on like step 1, 2, 4, and 5.
Yeah. I was telling you before this call about my strategic story, how I start with the customer avatar, then messaging, then content, then the marketing plan, because that's the order it needs to go into. I don't care what anyone says. It needs to be that order.
Yeah. And I think that's like the hard thing is like it takes time and, you know, people want to see that immediate return and everything like that, which I totally get it. I'm a business owner. Like I want to see that as well. But I think that like that's like the kind of the difference of like direct sales versus marketing. It's like marketing is an investment and it compounds over time. And like you're putting in that work up front and then you're using agile marketing to like iterate, optimize, and like change things. Yeah. But you're not going to be too far, like you're not going to be too far off if you do the foundational work as you were just describing.
No,
I haven't been proved wrong otherwise yet.
No. I'm completely with you on that. You need to do that first. But the first thing that I always plan for in the action step is doing the stuff that will move sales quickly first.
True. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, for sure. And I think that's like kind of how, like, if you're listening to this and like you're an agency owner, you know, you're kind of thinking this for your own company. It's like, to your point, it's like, what are those like quick hit things that you can just do that's like showing that where you can work on like the larger pieces of everything that's really going to like move the needle fully. But like kind of like the quick hit things that like appease people, get them off your back. So, you know, you can work on the stuff that's going to drive the results.
You need money. Businesses need money. So you need to prioritize the things that are going to get those sales in quickly while you're working on the foundational pieces of it. But you need to know your messaging strategy. You need to know your customer before you start any of those sales things.
Right. Well, but to your point though, if you're like activating sales and like along for the, like, that's where like marketing sales alignment is like not an option. It's a necessity.
Oh my God.
Because they're also the one, like you can obviously get a lot of like insight by like analyzing, like especially like on social, like if, you know, if you have that level of engagement on posts as an example, but like sales is like talking to potential customers and like if they can give that feedback loop to then feedback into the strategy, messaging, and planning, it's even like you're even like several steps ahead there.
100%. My first conversation is always with the sales team. I love them. They have all the insights. Customer
support, I feel like sales
teams,
like everyone's like, for sure. Definitely. Yes. I feel like they always are like, no one like wants to help us. Like they're out on their own. And it's like, no. Like, let's do this together. Like,
in my opinion, marketing is meant to support sales. They work together in order to make money. And that is all any business cares about is making money in the end.
Exactly.
They need to be connected. I rant and rave about this all the time. If you can tell, I'm worked up.
Yes, exactly. I think I just did a high level video on like marketing sales alignment, just came out. But yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's interesting when like it's not like clear, I guess, or like you're not seeing that. But I don't know. We try to break that down for sure.
Yeah, internally I see this a lot where sales and marketing aren't aligned because it's really easy to blame each other. Where if things aren't going well, marketing can say, well, you're not closing the sales. And sales can say, you're giving me crap leads.
Exactly. Yeah,
so that's what ends up happening. Okay. There are two questions that I want to go into. So you were talking about customer research. I want to know what you do for customer research because that is my favorite thing to do first too.
I think like first for client, like we're obviously looking at like what they have existing set up. So across like social media, ideally like you're actually going like to your point, like talking to sales, going into, if you can have access to the CRM or the data there, like what were like your most recent like users or like companies that you close, like what's their profile, like who are they, like job title, blah, blah, blah. And then so I guess that kind of depends. That was like where I would start. It's like, what do you have
like already? Who's your best customer?
Yeah,
identifying that through the data.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And like I think that sometimes a lot of time what we find is like they have customers, but they're not the customers that they want to be working with.
Yeah, I find that too.
So a lot of that actually, like a lot of where we come in for companies and for clients is that they want to tap into new audiences and then like kind of go after different customers. So we're kind of like building out like program strategies and the tactical side to do that and like researching, what does that look like? We also do like, I think you can get a lot of like kind of the intent and interest of like looking at like SEO data. So like we use SEMrush. I know some people call it SEMrush. I call it SEMrush.
I always call it SEMrush.
SEMrush, yeah. I think that's the correct way of saying it.
I honestly have no idea.
They can correct me. I don't know, whatever. Maybe they'll find us one day.
Come at me, SEMrush.
But the other tool that I've actually used where like a recent one that I really like is called SparkToro.
Oh, I like that
one. Yeah.
They're by the people of Moz.
Yeah. Rand Fishkin created it. So I think like that's kind of like I feel like kind of where we would like go first and like looking. Yeah. But I mean definitely starting with like a client, like what they currently have. But then if they're like, well, what we have is not what we want, then you go into like the other tools like SEMrush, SparkToro. And a couple like other things, but that's like kind of the core of it right now.
Yeah, I usually am working with clients that they have at least a couple of their ideal customers. So I'm able to interview them and get a good idea of who they are as I'm building it out. But the client I'm working with right now on their strategic story, they are working with a brand new audience. So I had to go a whole different route. And one of the things that I did this a long time ago when I was in-house, but I was like, I'm bringing this back. So I used a tool to analyze some of their ideal customers, their LinkedIn profiles, to give me a direction of like who they are. It gave me their disc profile, and then I put that up against their archetype, and that gave me some really good insight into who they are, what their motivations are.
Yeah.
And then I was able to have conversations with them, just, like I did with you. Awesome. I stalked them online.
Yeah. I think that's like a little bit of the part of it. It's like, kind of got to be a little bit of a stalker.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. Like you got to, I don't know, stalker. It's like, you got to be curious. Like you got to like go, like you're saying at the beginning, like got to go down those rabbit holes. Like you got to pull the threads. And I think like also like seeing when like bias is at play, like you think that's what they do on a day-to-day, but like if you can like that's what's also like kind of level of like if you can do like customer interviews and actually speak to customers, like really friendly ones, and like have that honest conversation is excellent. Or even listening, like you said, like talk to customer support, or like, can you like listen to sales calls and like layering all that in? Like
sales
it's like there's no shortage of
use.
data. Yeah, for sure. So
yeah, actually, now that you say that, for people who are listening that don't have people like us to do their stalking for them, that's the first thing I would do is listen to at least recordings of the sales calls, because they're talking about their challenges already. And they're talking about what triggered them to come to you in the first place. And that'll give you so much insight.
Exactly.
We were talking agile marketing. Do you set your benchmarks ahead of time so you have a threshold and you're like, well, nope, we got to pivot here?
Yeah, we do. But we don't do them like we do it like pretty much like max 6 months at a time. I think 6 months is like good, because you just like then do like kind of like break it down to like quarterly chunks to how to achieve it. So, and then like that also just gives us that opportunity and like to be upfront with the client, like, okay, we know in 6 months, like we're going to want to take a look at the strategy again. Are like the tactics related to that strategy actually like moving things in the way we want to? I mean, obviously when it's like really like, you know, usually we're like around a point where it's like, okay, we hit the goals, amazing. But then then it kind of opens up the conversation of like, okay, what do we do next? Or like maybe different or the same. What do we do the same? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, make it better. So we do set them in advance and then like kind of just see how we're trending towards that. But that also just like allows to be like, if we're not, and we know we're like certain percentages behind or something, then that allows us like within the like weekly to monthly planning and execution to be able to make those changes as needed. And it's obviously easier said than done, but that's like the ideal approach.
Yeah. It's easy for us to say. Now, if we were to think about this in terms of someone who has a small marketing department, how can they implement this idea of agile marketing? What would be an easy way to get started on that?
I would say like, I know I'm like, don't skip so many steps, but I think just like whatever you're doing, like sit down and like carve out time, like yourself or your team to like really take like a egoless, like look at the data and like what's working, what's not, and try to like layer not just like the quantitative data, but even like qualitative, and use that to like inform like kind of what needs to like pivot or change or stay the same as we were describing. Because that just kind of like feeds back to the top of like, okay, like we should do some more research and like identify what we want to change in our strategy. And then in terms of the execution, I think we all just kind of try to avoid looking at things. And so just,
especially if it might be hard to find the
time. Yeah, exactly. I think just like just kind of chilling in that discomfort. And like I said, like if I was like, if I didn't remove my ego from my newsletter, I'd still be like pushing myself to write it every month without trying, having it do like with the result that I was intending. But then,
So if a small marketing department is listening to this right now, maybe set a date that you're going to be looking at your analytics and deciding, hey, is this a go? Are we moving forward with it? Does it need to be optimized? Or is this a cut? And be okay with that. Be okay with the fact that marketing is like a lab. That's what I always say. Marketing is a lab, and you got to test stuff. And sometimes the test has proven that's not going to work, but that's a learning lesson, and that's okay.
Yeah. Learning through experiments over opinions and conventions. One of the values.
It's moving forward. Even if it didn't work, it's a movement forward.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for joining me on the show today.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah, for having me. Always amazing talking to you.
Can you tell everyone how they can find you and work with you?
Yes, you can go to our website, aimtal.com, AIMTAL.com. And you can connect with us there, through our contact form. And then I would definitely say like follow us on social. We're the most active there across channels. So you can really, learn a lot of these kind of insights. We like to kind of like share a lot of it forward. So I think kind of start there. And then, as I mentioned, if you're interested in working with us, you can reach out on our website as well.
All right.
Thanks, Sarah. Well, it was fabulous talking to you. I'm looking forward to seeing it go live. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. Today, we talked to Janet Mash, the CEO of Intel, and we talked about how to apply an agile approach to marketing. Now, I have some tiny steps that I need you to take. So sit down, grab your notebook, get ready for my homework assignments. What I want is for you to pick one thing to experiment with next quarter. But first, pick the benchmarks. What tells you that that thing is a success? And then, when the quarter is up, check those benchmarks, check the reporting, and see if it makes sense to continue doing that thing. So that's your homework. Super simple. Pick the thing you're going to experiment with. Pick the benchmarks that will determine if it's success or fail. Well, not really fail, because failing is just learning, and that's a good thing. So success or learning experience, and go about it. Make your marketing a little more agile so you can get more done with less time. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to tell a friend about it because shit, I want more people listening. We have a good listenership, and thank you to all my loyal people out there that are listening right now. But I want more. So tell your friends about this and go over to that show notes page and hit subscribe, follow, alert, write a review so we can get more eyes and ears. Well, I guess it's ears on this podcast. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.